Hey everyone, before I get started, I just want to remind you that if you like my content, hit that like button, subscribe to my channel, and then join the Militiaman and Crew Patreon community by clicking the link in the caption. Hey, good afternoon everybody. Friday afternoon. It's getting hot out there today because, man, there's some big stuff in the news, I believe. Hey, today, look, there's been an unveiling of a huge American Gulf Indian project in the region. What's going on this weekend is the G20, and on the sidelines of those meetings, it sounds like that the U.S., the leaders of Saudi Arabia, India, United Arab Emirates will be announcing a huge joint deal in the infrastructure sector, which is tomorrow, Saturday, that would link the Gulf and Arab countries via railways. I don't know if you guys realize how much money it costs to do infrastructure for railroads to go from country to country, but I'm pretty sure it's fairly large. It also goes on with, it says that the railways will also link those countries to India through shipping lines connected to the ports in the regions, and the project is considered to be a basic initiative, but yet it's going to be led by the United States, the Middle East, and the Chinese role in the region being growth is what it's going to be, which will be an essential part of that Belt Road, which is a vision of Beijing. So obviously the G20 includes China. So we're going to see how this turns out. I'm assuming some of these backdoor or backroom meetings are going to be intense, because we know that the negotiation teams have been around Iraq for quite some time. We know that the World Trade Organization has been around for quite a few years, and they've been recently in our videos that you've seen on YouTube, in Patreon, and plenty of the news information in our Discord chat room shows all of this data collectively over the last few months. It should be astounding. It should be very exciting for everybody, and we're starting to see it this end game, because there's going to be more to the story. Because again, if they're going to go international, they have international contracts and such that look, the present 23, 24, 25 budget just doesn't have what it takes to get that across the goal line, for instance. Okay. So as we go on, it says the U.S. has attempted to finalize these diplomatic efforts. They're going to effectively try to reach a massive deal with Saudi Arabia, which may include the normalization treaty between Israel and the kingdom before the launch of the United States elections in the coming 2024. So we should see if that has any impact. It says the United States would participate this Saturday in an event related to the Partnership for the Global Infrastructure and Investments. Well, that's a pretty big deal for the G20 to be talking about partnerships for global infrastructure and investments. And with this rail line, being that there is a Silk Road Initiative, there is the Development Road Initiative in Iraq, from the Port of Fao through into Turkey, all the way up into Europe, is a phenomenal situation that's happening now, not later. This has been an ongoing project for many, many years. It says here that the news indicated that leaders of the four countries have had negotiations, and if they're completed within the next 2 days, they'll sign a memorandum of understanding to set the basic frameworks for this project. Okay, the project is expected to link those Arab countries in the Levant region with those in the Gulf, with a network of railways that in turn will be linked with India through the ports of the Gulf countries. So really, it's pretty fascinating that they're really trying to tie this country in as a centralized place to do trade, business, and that includes millions and millions of people. We just saw the celebrations that they had for the last 2 days. There was over 22 million people that were involved in that. That's a lot of people, and that was just for 2 days. Think about how much food that's going to take to do that. Okay, there's infrastructure that is well needed, but they still pulled it off. Okay, they're capable. The families get together, the locals get together. They work as a team to help all these different people from all over the world to come in and see their home and pray together, do all their religious beliefs, and nobody is set aside. So it's all inclusive at this particular time of year. So it's going to be a big deal every year. So as time goes on. Basically what they're trying to say here is that if there is a peace agreement and it's concluded with Saudi Arabia and Israel, basically the latter part of it will become a major network. So the Israel will become a major part of that network, and Arab countries will also be able to expand trade through Europe through the use of Israeli ports, according to the same sources. So it seems to me, if we remember back in 2020, there was a move by people that wanted to level the playing field, and now here it is. It's 3 years past 2020. We had the FIMA, and the CML, currency manipulation laws, had been put in place in 2020. I think it was in April. And so now what do we see? We see meetings with Vietnam. We see them doing infrastructure. This is talking about global infrastructure. And now we see Iraq and the region doing more infrastructure. So you got to see how this is all tying in on a global standpoint. It's fascinating. It's good stuff. Basically, at the end of this particular article, it says, it's noteworthy that the White House National Security Advisor, Jake Sullivan, is going to meet with his counterparts with Saudi Arabia and their kingdom, the UAE, and India. And so obviously it's going to be a big deal. And the amount of money and investment wise, they're not going to be going and doing any of this stuff with Iraq's exchange rate at 13.10. It doesn't work, is my opinion, and we'll see how that goes. Okay, so really exciting times on a Friday. There's going to be some other things that we can talk about briefly. It says the federal government says it has fully implemented its financial commitments to the Kurdistan region. And what are we talking about? We're talking about, it's been in the news for a while now, and we know that basically according to them, a fact that they resolved the 23, 24, 25 budget June 25th as it went into force of 2023. But anyway, the federal government spokesman basically stated on Friday that the government has fully implemented its financial obligations toward the Kurdistan region, adding that the regional government, which is the Kurdistan region, has not delivered oil and non-oil revenues to Baghdad. Look, they're going back and forth about this whole thing, but the ultimate game here is that they're going to have to abide by their constitution. So here it says the federal government is keen on the rights of the citizens in the Kurdistan region, as it is keen on the rights of the citizens in all governance. So the federal government's saying, look, we understand that. We need to do this. So it says basically that they are in compliance with federal laws and agreements concluded under the Constitution, and it's the shortest way to complete financial transfers and enhance confidence. That statement right there is talking about timing. They're going to do it in the fastest, in the shortest way that the Constitution provides. So they haven't done it for certain reasons. They've been allowed time to get it done for whatever reason. They don't explicitly say it because they do tell you that they finished it and it's in force since June, that there must be a time limit that's not being exposed, and that could be outside of the Constitution and in a federal law. I'm not really sure, but back to this is basically stating they're going to go with the Constitution in the shortest manner possible. It says we worked as permitted by law to make a decision in the Council of Ministers to lend to the region until its financial problems were fundamentally resolved. So by not the Kurdistan region, it appears that they just didn't quite get through it, that they needed to deliver the oil and non-oil revenues to Baghdad. And why, don't know, but obviously it's been a bone of contention. But we also see them talking about it back and forth, that the Kurdistan region has done all their obligations. The federal government is saying that they've done all their obligations except for some things, which is the oil, non-oil, gas revenues. And they said there was procedural. The federal government said it wasn't political, but yet the Kurdistan seemed to think that yes, it is a political situation, but in the Baghdad area says that it's more of a technical and procedural situation, whereas as you can see that if you're not disclosing or not ponying up the money that comes from the non-oil revenues, which is the taxes and tariffs at the borders, Electronically, if you haven't done that yet, that could be technical. So let's see how this plays out. But the bottom line is, the cool part is that they're saying specifically that it is a constitutional situation, and it needs to be taken and done in a very short period of time, which is what they say, the shortest period possible. It says, it goes on, the federal government has fully implemented its financial obligations toward the Kurdistan region. Like I just said, they made great efforts to provide all solutions until the end of June. Well, that was back in the 25th. Remember when we were all talking about July 1st, 2nd, and 3rd? Well, obviously, probably a vindication that everybody was expecting it. We were right. It's just that it didn't happen because there are certain things that weren't quite finished yet. But they did say specifically they provided solutions until the end of June. Well, June 25th, 2023 was the day that it went into force. It goes on to say that the funds in the region amounted to more than 3 times the share of the region, according to the actual spending of the state, while the regional government didn't receive oil and non-oil revenues. So look, they've been back and forth with this, and I think that it's going to come to a head. It says the Council of Ministers of the Kurdistan region called on the federal government in Baghdad to disperse these final financial benefits to the region, the amounts included in the budget tables, urging the international community to support the Kurdistan region in obtaining its constitutional rights and financial entitlements under the Constitution signed by those agreements. Well, all right, great. So the Kurdistan region sounds like they want to do it by the Constitution. Baghdad wants to do it by the Constitution. I've got a good, strong feeling that they're about ready to do it by the Constitution. The he and hawing in the media, you got to sometimes take it with somewhat of a grain of salt, because this has been ongoing now for the last 3 or 4 days. But they also they tell you specific things that what they've already done, and it's based off the Constitution. So they're just kind of like seem like they're softballing things for a purpose. And again, there's no millions of people in the street right now, even though they haven't been paid for 2 months. You got to ask yourself, like, well, why in the world would I want to go to work tomorrow if I'm not going to get a paycheck, right? So anyway, once again, I'm going to reiterate this, is because it says the federal government has fully implemented the financial obligations towards the Kurdistan region. So the two things, right? There is the government and the regional government, and it just says that they've reached and done their obligations. So what happens here, it says they made great efforts to provide solutions until the end of that last June. So they reiterated the fact that key point. I was on my last YouTube, I pointed it out, that's when they really had this done, so that the July time frame was in the cards. It just didn't happen quite that way yet. And so they had some other things, some loose ends. They had some corruption possibly to get over. We saw all kinds of that in the last 2 months. And so therefore you go, okay, well, are they ready yet? Are the electronic platforms ready? Is the SWIFT system ready? ICE cutter system at the borders ready? Of course it is. All of that's ready. Are they going to do a railway? All of a sudden, a major deal with the G20, the largest countries in the world, talking about sideline deals? You got to go, wow, they are meaning business, because what is it about? It's about money. A lot of it, infrastructure takes it, and basically these guys are getting to do it. And of the last thing I'm going to say about on this particular page, it says, despite the regional government's lack of commitment, the federal government took a decision to not blame the Iraqi citizens in the region for non-compliance, because effectively, if they weren't giving you the revenue streams for the non-oil, or the oil and the non-oil taxes, tariffs, and borders to the federal government, hey, they're out of compliance, which was harming the citizens. And it goes on, they're stressing, compliance with the federal laws and agreements concluded under the Constitution is the shortest way to complete the financial transfers and enhance confidence with the citizens. Okay, it doesn't get any clearer than that. They're going to try to enhance the confidence of the citizens, bring the citizens some purchasing power, and they're going to be happy campers. And I think all the investors and all the countries around the world that are gearing to come in and do business are going to be the same way. And if you've noticed today, here's an interesting concept. It says that Barzani, who was on Twitter yesterday, he was kind of poking the government in the eye by saying we haven't received our 1.375 trillion dinars in this month, that month, this month. And it was, pretty vocal. But basically, he's changed his tune and used the word, instead of delay, he used the word refrain and not delay in sending the dues. So refrain is a little softer terms because they refrain from doing it because of the reasons that I just mentioned foretold. It says basically the parties within the framework are trying to evade the agreement, which may lead us to a dead end. Well, the bottom line is that there was some divisions in some various parties over influence and interest. So here we go. There was some interest in the Kurdistan region. There was probably some political blocs that don't like the idea of not being able to get that graft off the taxes and tariffs at the borders, okay? And many other ways of getting money. Got to remember the e-government system is going to take away a lot of income that was coming through some of these corrupt politicians, is that they were having, ghost soldiers. They were having ghost employees. So payments were going out to 5, 6, 7 different people for the same job. They didn't even exist. And so they needed to fix that problem. And this problem is going to tap into those money streams that they've been used to for 20 years. I mean, they were uninhibited corruption. And it's fascinating that that's going away. So they basically state that if we assumed that there were problems and contradictory opinions with the political agreement, it would have been better for the objectors not to agree from the beginning as not to reach where we have reached today. So in other words, they could have stopped what they were doing or at least acknowledged it at the time, but yet they're trying to do it today. But then we've already come to a stage of at a level that there's no going back. So we have reached that space today. And so that is a pretty big statement. It's hard to read some of this stuff, so be careful when you read it and take your time looking at it, because the translations can be really pretty tough. But the cool part is that they're at a stage where that they've reached today to get this stuff done, and that's going to be on the constitutional basis. So the last thing I'm going to read with you guys today is an article that's called Concerning Financial Dues, and the coordinating committees announce its position on the government statement, and it invites Erbil. It says the federal government is fully implemented, I like these words, fully implemented its financial obligations towards the Kurdistan region. It's noting that the funds owed by the region amounted to more than 3 times of the share region. We read that already. But then again, it says the regional government did not hand over oil and non-oil revenues as required by the budget law, despite the lack of commitment of the regional government. So it's back to them again. The federal government took a decision, again, not to hold the citizens responsible for non-compliance. Right. So the adherence to federal laws and agreements that are concluded under the Constitution is the shortest way to complete the financial transfers and enhance confidence. And it goes on, it says the regional government states the facts to the public opinion that it did not adhere to many points. So the regional government states the facts that they did not adhere to those many points. And here's the kicker right here. All the framework forces support what was stated in the statement of the Sudanese government and see it as disclosure of facts that many Iraqi people, including the Kurds, may not have known in order to clarify part of the secrets of the crisis, despite Baghdad's efforts to overcome them. My view on this is going to be interesting, because what are they talking about? They're giving an excuse why some of these things didn't happen. They're giving themselves a way out. And that way out was something that was secret. Well, what could not be disclosed to them until the last minute? That's going to be determined, but my view on it is that that secret, that unknown, is likely going to turn out to be an exchange rate change. So, but before we get to that, it says the president of the Kurdistan region government, Mansour Barzani, said, Baghdad's refusal to send our financial dues is a violation of the constitutional agreements. Okay, the guy's effectively bloviating, because we already know since back in June 25th that all of these things should have been addressed, and they're bouncing back and forth. So there is some political component, because there's going to be elections coming in the future. And secondly, if you go back and what I see what I put out, what that's in writing, is that Kurdistan's basically parliament is null and void at this time. So these guys didn't have a whole lot of leg room to stand on, or legs to stand on. They've already told us that they have obliged and agreed to do what they were supposed to do. They just may not have done it yet, but now they're at that constitutional stage where that time frame is running out. Therefore, we're probably at the final stages, which is an awesome thing. So basically, look, regardless of what is being said by Barzani and the regional government, they did not receive salaries, and they have been noted to be technical reasons, procedural issues with respect to the oil and non-oil revenues. So at this moment, the region is basically a part of the state, which we all know constitutionally it is. They have something coming. The region will have to abide by the Constitution, as will Baghdad. They're unknown, or those secrets that may not be known by everyone, which one of them may have been a new internationally acceptable currency. We'll see. It would fit as a secret because they're not capable of disclosing. Exchange rate is sensitive information, and they're basically stating to me that if in fact that we didn't know that crisis could be addressed. So hopefully you liked my work, you guys, today. It's Friday, and I hope you have a really good weekend. So all you new folks, if you like our channel, hey, hit that like button and subscribe. And if you'd like to keep the content flowing, because every little bit helps, tap those donate buttons of your choice and see if you can help keep this content going. I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much. Once again, guys, don't forget to hit that like button if you like this content. Subscribe to the channel, or join us at the Militiaman and Crew Patreon community for even more exclusive content. You can also donate to this channel by hitting the links in the banner to help keep this page up and running. Your generous support is greatly appreciated, as always. Much, much appreciated. Thank you so much, and have a great day.